Welcome to EnVision Center News, where we discuss community impact and involvement with today's nonprofit leaders and philanthropists.
Berit, hello and welcome to the podcast. When I saw you get added to the schedule, I was like, I actually know what Tunnel to Towers is. I've participated in a 5K Tunnel to Towers race before. It was some years ago. So I'm excited to talk about this organization and what you do. But first, can you just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
I can. Let's see here. I was born and raised in Seattle. My former husband's job took us all over, so I've lived in a variety of different places, from Brazil to Miami to New Jersey, Chicago. The last place prior to here, I was in Jacksonville, and we were going through a divorce, and I had a 10 and 11-year-old. So I wanted to get back up here to the Northwest, and we have family in Libby. So I remember going on family vacations over to Montana, and my folks always would stop here in Sandpoint. So when I was trying to decide where I wanted to wind up, I selected Sandpoint, and I've been here 8 years now.
Okay.
And let's see here. I own a cleaning business. I've got a couple dogs, couple cats that, I love dearly. And my daughter's down at Boise State, and my son's over in Washington, working over there. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah. And so the cleaning business is the main way that's your main career.
It is.
But you have this passion.
I do.
I don't want to, it's way more than a hobby. It's a passion project. And how did that come to be? That you got involved with Tunnel to Towers. I know you're not like the CEO and founder of Tunnel to Towers.
Right. Well, geez. So I have a bachelor's in criminal justice. So I'm already kind of, interested in that respect, just the criminal justice field aspect of it. But more importantly, I go all the way back to when the towers came down. I was actually over in Italy, and it took, we were delayed a week coming back into the United States.
So you weren't living there at the time. You were like on a vacation.
I was on a vacation.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I had, when I was in my early 20s, I had actually went to New York on vacation and had lunch at the Windows of the World up at the top of the World Trade Center. And I just was fascinated with the buildings. And so when they came down, I remember that New York was asking for people to go back and support the city because, tourism had essentially declined, was non-existent. And I went back 3 months after. And then subsequently, my husband's job took us to New Jersey. And just through the course of being in that general kind of part of the country, I couldn't help but notice how strongly they were about patriotism and about every overpass had an American flag on it.
Yeah.
And I started writing for the local paper, the Morristown Green, and I started going to council meetings, and just kind of through, the connections that I had made, I started writing a lot of the stories on the fire department, the police. I started doing a lot of photos for this particular paper, and started covering events. As an example, the Wounded Warrior Project event, there was a big gala that was put on, and I just really started to feel a connection to that whole area, and
just kind of people that are in those service roles.
Yeah, I just, I guess I'm an adrenaline junkie, so it was, my way, I think, of just covering the news, but doing it in such a way that it certainly wasn't boring. During Hurricane Sandy, I was doing photos, the night of the storm, and I think it just stuck with me. And the Freedom Tower was being built when I lived back in New Jersey. So it was pretty fascinating to literally watch it go up, just floor by floor by floor. And I wound up leaving. I moved out of New Jersey probably 8 years ago. And last year, I think it was, I knew they did a 5K race. And So I had looked up the details, and I wasn't able to make the race, but I saw that they also had a climb, and it was the Freedom Tower climb, which is you start, from the bottom of the tower up. I believe it's 102 floors, but it's 2,226 stairs. And the event.
Were you a runner? Like
no.
no.
I just recently, in the last couple of years, started getting into hiking and more physical activity, so to speak. But the event had sold out, but they had a wait list.
And this was in
It was in New York City.
It was with the actual building.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So I believe we're probably looking at like mid-March, and the event is always the first Sunday in June, is my understanding. So I thought I'll throw my name down on the wait list. So 2 weeks before the event last year, they contacted me and asked if I was still interested in participating. So I had the privilege of, I flew out there on my own dime.
Yeah.
And I participated in the event, and it just, I don't know, I've just learned a lot more about what the foundation does for our veterans, for our first responders, and I just became really connected with it. So
How many people participate in that?
So if I remember correctly, the race last year was over 40,000, the 5K, and it goes through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. Mm-hmm. And the climb was a little over 1,000 people. So the climb, I believe, is in its 10th year this year. And so
And
they cap it off. Some there's a variety. There's a mix. There's definitely a mix. But to just even wrap your head around going up that many floors, it was overwhelming. Mm-hmm. It took me about 36 minutes, which was middle, little bit, less than kind of middle of the pack, so to speak. But it was grueling, and that was with the T-shirt.
You didn't do a ton of training or anything in preparation. You kind of just went into it. Okay.
Well, I had 2 full weeks of training.
Yes.
But my problem is I couldn't really come up with any stairs around here in town, in Sandpoint, and somebody suggested War Memorial Stadium. Mm-hmm. So I thought, oh, that's a great idea. So for 2 weeks, I was there pretty religiously in the mornings, just going up, down, up, down, up, down. And what I discovered was just the absolute beauty of where I was. I would do it first thing in the morning, so the sun would be rising, and I just thought to myself, this needs to be shared. Mm. This needs to be shared with other people that would be interested in, possibly hosting or, having an event here in Sandpoint. I believe there's been a couple of events over the years that Tunnel to Towers has sponsored, but not many in this, part of the country for obvious reasons. We're a really long ways away from the East Coast. Mm-hmm. But so that was really kind of my mission, was to try to persuade the foundation to consider having an event here.
And so what part of it most moved you when you got to participate? Was it the camaraderie of the people? Was it just thinking about what it would be like to be a fireman running up those stairs, or what specifically was like the major hook that you were like, I need to bring this back home with me?
I think the camaraderie was really strong, and it was primarily the tri-state area as far as the participants went, and so I felt like I was kind of on the outside looking in, because I was clearly not a first responder, not from that region. And it's different back there, it's different. And I loved my time back there. And I look back on it with such fond memories. And so for me, it was such a gift to be able to be part of, I think, recognizing the 343, firefighters and all of the other, first responders that were lost that day. And just knowing that, I was able to make a little bit of a difference going forward for veterans that come back that are catastrophically, injured, or, first responders that are killed in the line of duty, or whatever else that looks like. But
yeah, what is it all that Tunnel to Towers does for those folks? Like, how do they give back?
They, it started with, my understanding is paying off mortgages. So for, as an example, a lot of people don't know this, but I think it's important because what I've recognized just in the past when I've done different events is people are really interested in wanting to know if the money stays local. So the 2 fallen firefighters that were ambushed last year on Canfield Mountain, the foundation within, I believe it was 4 or 5 days.
Your foundation, Tunnel to Towers.
Correct. The Tunnel to Towers. They paid off both mortgages for the widows, and I can't imagine it being more local than that.
Right.
They provide scholarships for the children that were left behind after 9/11. They build smart homes, so they make them digitally more convenient for, I believe, veterans that come back that have lost three or more limbs. They, just essentially remodel homes in order to make them more user-friendly for first responders and or veterans that maybe are in wheelchairs now, so they need them to be more ADA compatible.
So do people normally reach out to them and say, hey, we lost 2 firefighters, this is the story, and they go, we got you? Or do they just have their finger on the pulse? That was a national news story, and they were like, hey, I don't know if you even know we exist, but we're going to pay off those mortgages.
I can't answer that because I'm not entirely sure how that particular process works. I mean, if I had to, pick one, I almost think that the second one seems a little bit more feasible, that they just recognized that it was something that they could do to make a difference in the lives of these, shattered families. So that's
do they
what
just
did.
have a headquarters over on the East Coast, or do they have offices throughout the country, or it's just the main headquarters?
It's my understanding that there's the headquarters in Staten Island, and I'm not sure if they have any auxiliary offices or not. What I am learning as a result of being part of this event is they're involved in a lot of different philanthropic projects throughout the country that I think a lot of people probably aren't even familiar with, but they really do have kind of an overreaching positive effect in a lot of people's lives throughout the country that you just don't hear about.
And because you had said that
beg your pardon. Sorry for interrupting. The other thing that I was really impressed with that we just watched a training session on the other day were these veteran villages, these homeless, these apartments and or hotels that the foundation is purchasing and creating villages for homeless vets.
Wow.
And then they're also including like a full staff as well as caseworkers for each of the vets. In addition to that, they make sure that if there's appointments, whatever the appointments those are, there's a shuttle so they try to take care of the whole veteran, not just putting him in, housing, but yet not supporting him along the way. So it's a really big investment, and we saw some of the different properties around the country, and they're gorgeous. I mean, they're absolutely just beautiful.
And so what was this process like then when you come back home and you're like, I want to bring a Tunnel to Towers event here? What did you do? What's the first step? You just send them an email? Hey, can I do a race? Or how does that work?
Well, they do promote it. So it's called the Run, Walk, Climb series. And I've heard different numbers, but I seem to think that there's over 80 of these events around the country, varying degrees, either a run or a climb or, in our case, both. So I just clicked on, start a race or whatever it was. And I just explained that there would be really strong support here, and that I would hope that they would maybe give consideration to allow us to host an event. And initially, the response that I had gotten was, thank you for your interest, but there's already an event in Coeur d'Alene because I had actually identified September 12th to commemorate the 25-year anniversary as as that being the proposed date. But there's already the Coeur d'Alene event, which I wasn't aware of, and that wouldn't make sense.
Right.
But I just thought, well, shoot, maybe if I can come up with a different date, they would reconsider. And so I asked, and they said that they would. So I went to City Hall, and I was working with Haley Keys, and I have to just give her a big shout out because it didn't even occur to me to request the 4th of July. I was looking at, mid-July, of course not the end because of the festival, just to keep it far enough away from the September 12th event. So when she suggested July 4th, I just couldn't believe my ears. And I went back to the foundation, and they loved it. So they said, all right, it's a go.
And so is it just you and a couple of friends running this, or are you getting any nonprofits that are helping, maybe veteran affiliated ones or oriented ones? Or?
I'm so in the beginning stages right now that I hope all of that comes to fruition. But at this point, I need volunteers and hopefully organizations, hopefully organizations that will step up and sponsor, which would be great, but that's not the primary goal of this, this event. It's let's bring the community together. Let's, show our solidarity and support our veterans and support our first responders. So more than anything, I want to make sure that people know about it. The details are being worked out, but it would be a July 4th event, and it would be first thing in the morning because there is the 4th of July parade.
I was going to ask, are you going to run the route?
So
do you know what the route will be?
I do.
Okay.
I do. So essentially it'll start at the south side of the Long Bridge and go across the Long Bridge in the pedestrian side. And then it will wind around, I guess, where the entrance of town is. And then it will take a sharp turn, a left at First Avenue, and then just work its way down to Lakeview, I believe, 4th Avenue, Antone, Euclid, and then I think maybe Lakeview again or Ontario. And then the finish line will be at the Memorial Field, which will put it right at the 5K mark.
Okay, perfect.
And so the race, tentatively, it looks like it might be a 7:30 start. And then the climb, my thoughts would be probably a 9 o'clock. And
so some people do both, or
some people will do both, but they're not a one activity, or however you want to say that. But you can do one or the other or both, essentially. Okay. So, yeah.
Cool. So it's in the very beginning stages, but you know your route. You talked to the city already, and then now is the part where you're just kind of raising awareness, I suppose, and trying to get people to volunteer and get involved. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's your top need right now is volunteers, or are you looking for businesses to sponsor as your number one ask?
Business. It would be nice. It would be nice to, have the support of the community and to, I came up with this Operation Pack the Bridge kind of mentality that, how wonderful it would be to just see participants, like all over the bridge, really. So, so participants, sponsorship, volunteers right now. I know that at some point there's going to be a need for that, but I don't know what that looks like right now. So that's probably something that'll be, looked at a little bit further down the line.
What does the foundation provide to you? Do they give you like do they do like the little bibs with the tracker in it and the finish line, where you get your time and all of that, the equipment?
They do.
Okay.
They do. They sponsor the event financially.
So it's sort of like a race in a bag kind of thing. Here's the stuff that you need. They probably create it on their web, the event page on their website or whatever, so people can find it. I'm kind of just learning this as I go and
it's been a really just unique experience for me to have such a solid foundation of backing, so to speak. I've done events in the past where, I've kind of spearheaded them sort of on my own. And so I just feel beyond fortunate and grateful that they were willing to take a chance and hold an event here and, back it financially, because it's a big expense. So, and I just want to make a difference, and hopefully we can show them the patriotism and the love that Idaho has for,
Definitely people here support our servicemen and women and first responders. That's no doubt. Just got to get them out in the morning before the parade. You come running the race, go home and take a shower, and then come watch the parade. That's what I'm thinking about. Do you know how much it will cost to participate?
It's, if I remember correctly, I want to say $35, but there's a 50% discount. Maybe the first week.
Mm-hmm. If you get in early, if you buy
early bird kind of registration. So, but it's my understanding for an adult, it's $35.
Do you know what the maximum amount of participants you can have is? I don't even know if that ever really happens. Well, I guess it does happen in the original race. You got to get on a wait list,
right?
But I don't know if that's common for the other ones that happen around the country.
I have not heard that there's a max, like there's a cap. I think,
just the more the merrier.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Are you gonna? Well, you're gonna be running the thing, so you're not gonna be able to participate. Probably, you'll just get to watch and cheer people on and handle the behind the scenes stuff.
I don't know. I feel like I have to be part of it, like run it also. I mean, I guess it'll just depend on where I'm, if I'm needed elsewhere, then I won't, but I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope I can do the climb and, but just whatever it is that I need to do, I'll just, focus my energy there, I guess.
Have you done any other ones now since you did the one over in New York? Other tunnel to tower events, races that you didn't run, but you just participated in them?
Well, I did the Fred Hutch Space Needle base to space climb.
Oh.
So I climbed the Space Needle last September.
Ooh.
And I did the Long Bridge swim, but that was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll do that again. That was that was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough. But just I'm signed up for the not yet, but the Sandpoint 10K. I did that a couple years ago and I enjoyed that. So just, local things that kind of spark my interest.
But just the one tunnel to towers event?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Just that one.
And I was telling you, I said it in the intro too, that I did one before, a Tunnel to Towers 5K when I lived in Washington. But I just did it because I was looking for a 5K on a certain date. And it just was like, oh, I think this is a great cause. This will be a good one for me to participate in. So it's fun now. It kind of feels like I'm getting back into running now too. And so it's like, oh, maybe this could be. And the last time I did a Tunnel to Towers was after I think I'd had my second baby. So I was like getting back into running, did the 5K and was like, okay, that went pretty well. And then got pregnant again. And so got out of shape again. And now I'm getting back into shape. And so I'm like, I guess it's time to do another Tunnel to Towers after getting back into running. It's just going to be my thing.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. So I had not planned on doing the climb this year over in New York, but I happened to go online, I don't know, a few weeks back, and the registration was still open. So I felt obligated. And I did sign up again. So I'm actually pretty excited that I'll be going back again this year and doing it for the second time.
And you said that's first weekend in June?
First weekend in
June. So
June.
about a month before you do the one here, you'll be doing that one. Okay, what other needs are there? Do you need people that sponsor, maybe not and like they give you money, but they provide pizza at the end of the race or something like that?
Yes, all of the above.
Okay.
In-kind donations would be wonderful. For whatever reason, I have egg bites stuck in my head. So I'd love to find, maybe one of the local restaurants in town that would be interested in supplying egg bites before the race. But just, whatever anyone is willing to, donate or contribute, whatever that looks like, it would be appreciated.
Great.
So this is definitely something that's new for me, and there's a lot of things that I don't know. So just be patient with me. I'll do what I can, but
Yeah. How do people find you? Do you have a Facebook page or anything like that set up yet?
no, I do not. It's my understanding, just the communications that I've had with the foundation, we're looking at the end of the month to do an official launch.
Okay.
Where there will be like an actual page, Tunnel to Towers, Sandpoint, climb, run page. I'll have, flyers, and it's my hope that I have some friends that are willing to kind of just, blanket the community and go about it that way. But that for right now would be probably the best way. But I'm sure that if they need to perhaps get a hold of me, maybe they can do that through your show.
Okay, great. Yeah. People can reach out to us and we can connect them to you if there's anybody, but we're still pretty early yet. So I think you're doing it's fine that you don't have the page up yet. There'll be time to get all of that done. Are there any other needs? We talked about the volunteering. Of course, always checks are nice to help pay for things. In-kind donations. What else do you need?
Well, I think something that would be wonderful is and obviously people are going to be taking photos, but it would be nice if somebody would be willing to photograph the event.
Good point. Yeah.
I also need somebody for the sound system, whether or not that's in kind, or obviously people need to eat. So if somebody can let me know what that looks like, as far as if they're willing to do like the emceeing and the sound system, that would be great.
Okay.
But I think, to be honest with you, aside from that,
sign up and
TBD.
participate. And sign up and just participate. If you're not, if you're
just
not
be
someone,
part of.
Right. Just show up and even if, maybe you're like, I'm really not a runner or climber or walker or whatever. I don't do that stuff. You can just show up and cheer people on.
Absolutely.
Right.
Spectators are always welcome. Probably, the biggest help that anyone could provide, and it won't cost them a dime, social media.
Just sharing.
Just share. Just it doesn't matter if you're, sharing or you live across the country, because there's going to be a connection somewhere, and and it highlights the foundation and all of the programs that they are creating or are participating in, and just the difference they're making for, a lot of folks, that not only just the veterans and the first responders, but their families and the children. And, the list is long. So if I can put together or be part of this, equation, then it's just been an honor to, have a little bit of an affiliation with this foundation.
Do you have to set any kind of like fundraising goals or something like that? Or is it just, okay, go do it, and whatever you raise is what you raise?
It's that attitude, which for me, I appreciate, because it kind of takes away the pressure. I'm going to work just as hard.
Yeah.
But not having that number looming over my head makes it a lot just better mentally for me.
Yes.
And I think it just relaxes me and allows me to, just know that as long as I do the best I can do, then I have to just, be okay with that. So
yeah. And God, I had a thought about fundraising. Oh, you've never done it before either, so you have no kind of barometer to know if you do it this year and then you come back and do it next year. Then you'll kind of know, okay, we raised this much last year. Now I know what's realistic.
Right.
I feel like going into it blind, you're like, I don't know how much we'll raise. Like, we're just going to find out.
Exactly.
And then we'll go from there. We'll build it. You'll build it from there. Well, this is all super exciting because it's a great cause. I don't actually think you might relate to this being a Washingtonian or a former Washingtonian yourself. There are so many races over there. There's a 5K within 30-minute drive like every weekend over in Washington. And Washington is known as like a cross-country distance running state, as is Oregon, of course, the birth of cross-country, some say, in Oregon. So Oregon and Washington, there are so many opportunities to do 5Ks, 10Ks all the time, year-round, in the rain, in all the weather. I've been surprised that when I've come to northern Idaho, just one state over, still a very outdoorsy, active state, there just isn't as many races around. You know, it's not like you can find one within a 20, 30-minute drive every weekend, basically year round. And so I'm glad that there's another race coming too. I don't feel like we're oversaturated with 5Ks here, which there are some areas probably in especially Western Washington where it's like, dang, there's a lot of 5K fundraisers going on all the time, but that's just not the case here, I don't think.
I would have to agree with you, and I'm actually glad you brought that point up, because there was some conversation within the foundation and me that initially it's suggested to just stick to like one event, the climb and or the race. So we had a discussion regarding just doing the climb because it's different enough. There's not as many climbs.
Yeah.
And I am so thankful that that they were willing to reconsider, because I was able to just share with them the connection that Idahoans and folks in this region have with the Long Bridge, and just how, you know, I've talked to many people, and as soon as you hit that Long Bridge, you associate home with the bridge, and just the absolute beauty that you're surrounded by. And quite honestly, for me, I know that the climb would have been successful. However, the bridge is the hook as far as I'm concerned. You know, the few races that I have done that have been here in Sandpoint, that was always what sold me.
Yeah. I want to run over that bridge and go, ha.
Yes, yes. So I'm really excited to just showcase how beautiful this area is, and you know, and I don't want to disappoint. And there is that little bit of pressure that I just want there to be a strong turnout. And I know there will be, or whatever it is what it's going to be. But it's my hope, you know. I'd love to see. I don't think it's unreasonable for this entire region to set a goal of, I'd love to see 1,000. I'm going to just put it out there. I'd love to see 1,000 participants. It's probably a high number, but I just don't think it's unreasonable to put it out there on the 4th of July. You have your 250-year anniversary of America and 25-year of 9/11. And unfortunately, it actually coincides with the 1-year anniversary of the ambush in Coeur d'Alene the same week, because that was June 29th. And so anyhow, it just, you know, it's, I'm excited to see how it all turns out.
Me
and
too.
Nervous.
Me too. And I can totally relate putting on events and being like, will anyone show up? Am I spending all this time for nothing? It'll work out. And people will show up. Is there anything that we didn't mention that we need to make sure people know about this event?
I think it's important to mention the foundation and how and why it was created. It was Stephen Siller. He was a firefighter, and he had just gotten off shift, and he saw the smoke coming from the towers. So he had tried to make it through I believe the Brooklyn Battery tunnel, and it was gridlocked. So he grabbed his gear and ran over, and his entire department perished in the towers. And his brother, Frank Siller, spearheaded the
including
idea.
Him?
Beg your pardon? Yes.
Including him. He ran and then died.
Correct. So he was supposed to have gone and played golf with his brothers, and instead opted to go over to see what he could do to help. And his entire department was lost that day. So it's been a family effort to recognize, you know, his heroic efforts and to honor him and to honor all of the other, you know, first responders and civilians that were lost that day.
And I think, you know, obviously the running is symbolic of running to danger,
and it's the same route. So the race that they do at the end of September every year, it's the same route.
It's the route he ran.
Correct.
Right. And to me, I feel like I would get, particularly doing the climb, maybe get emotional just imagining someone, their heart pounding, you know, they're terrified, but they're running to danger to try to help someone. But I run and I have my tennis shoes on and some a t-shirt and shorts. They're in, their full gear and carrying stuff, sweat just pouring down because it's so hot.
Dust and heat.
Yes,
and,
everything. And so, even have an opportunity to do something like this and just put yourself in one of those first responders' shoes, like kind of literally, you're sort of putting yourself physically through a version of what they put themselves through physically. I mean, the timing just couldn't be better, reflecting on all of these big events and the reminder of men and women that run towards danger to help a stranger, to help strangers. I mean, it's a crazy thing that humans do. Other animals don't necessarily, they run away from the fire, and we're running to it because maybe there's somebody I could help. So I think you've picked a great time to do this, and it'll be so impactful.
I would say probably in closing, what I still reflect back on is getting to the top. After climbing all those stairs and you reach the top and you just feel the energy, people have pictures of their loved ones. Everyone's running for, everyone was climbing for someone, it seemed. And there were so many teams of, different teams that companies had, put together, or families. And it just, it was really touching and really just made an impact of just looking at the other participants and just imagining, like, who did they lose as they stood there and just looked out, 104 floors up. And it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful view. It was a little bit cloudy, but you could see the Statue of Liberty, and it just, it was really moving. And I'm just really grateful that I get to give it another shot. So.
Yes. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that you're doing for this community.
And thank you for asking me to participate in this podcast. I'm very appreciative, so thank you.
Of course.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. For more information, you can go to crecidaho.com. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you again soon.